Welcome to Tinkering with Atkelar. For this edition I have a build video, making stuff from scratch this time. Only the plans for the project were bought from the internet. I shall leave the source in the description. There are many blueprints for similar gadgets to get there. Go check it out. Well, what is it then, you might ask? And here may I give you a mechanical calendar and orrery. Most of the parts are cut from sheets of plywood. First thing is to lay out the parts to make minimum waste. And there are lots of pieces. To make the cutout easy, the plans are glued to the ply and then just cut out along the lines. Easy enough. I first used a jigsaw to cut some smaller chunks out of the sheet. This is where I realized that a tripod might be handy, and that image stabilization has its limits. Cutting all the parts to size on the small bandsaw was easy enough. I left them a hunch oversized so I could sand them down to size. To make all the round parts truly round, I fixed a small sheet of ply to my sander and put in a dummy axle. Worked like a charm. Some of the gears require cutouts. Normally this is done to reduce weight in steel-based machines, but here it's mostly optics and in one case to see through to a dial behind that gear. What really took the most of the cutting time was, as you may have guessed, cutting the teeth into the gears. I kept the cutouts to give you an idea how 405 cutout teeth look like. Also, about 260 parts in total. To sand the teeth, I had to get creative with my old belt sander. It has a notch on one side where the gear teeth actually fit over the belt. I would probably still be sanding teeth if it weren't for that contraption. After sanding, I started to glue those parts that required glue, which were surprisingly few. One of my biggest headaches was the backplane. I like that fragile design, but for that to be stable enough, it has to be cut from a single sheet of plywood. There are no precise cutting instructions included in the plans, only drilling templates. I had to manually match up the design as good as possible. The jigsaw left quite an ugly edge, and because of the weird shape I just couldn't get any of my sanding tools to cooperate. This is where construction stalled a bit while I was working on my router table. Once that was done, I stuck a straight piece of material to the frame with double-sided tape and used a copy bit in the router to smooth the edge. This worked wonders. Only the rounded edges needed manual attention, but all the long and straight edges were now exactly that. Straight. Woohoo! The wind-up key is a neat construction too. First, how to clamp a round peg in a square vise. Make an adapter. Then, how do you drill a square hole? Cheat! Some of the wheels needed a groove for the wind-up string. I only had a toy lathe at the time, but it worked out well enough. Now that everything was cut out and sanded to size, I started the painting process. I used 2 iterations with wood stain to get the dark wood look I was looking for, and added 2 coats of clear coat to get a nice shine. The dials were, next to the backplane, another bigger issue. The plan stayed to let the paper on the wheels in those parts. With the stain, that would have looked extremely messy. Also, I was aiming for a bit more of a fancy font. So I sat down with Illustrator and redid all the labels. My method of choice was etching some brass and airbrush. I don't have proper setup for etching, so I had to do many iterations of coating, exposing, developing, but eventually it came out well enough. I airbrushed over the entire thing and sanded off the writing. Cutting out the pieces and filing them to size was easy enough. Add some clear coat to keep the shine, and then drill and nail them to the appropriate wheels. Well, it starts to look like something. For the planets, I decided to go with some marbles. It took ages to find nice ones that at least resembled the overall color scheme of the planets. Yes, I actually went to Wikipedia for pictures of the planets. Gluing glass against wood is no easy task. The design also calls for some weights here and there. Added some larger marbles on one lever and put some others in wire cages and chains to match the look. Also, I added some wires to mark the indicators on the frame and make them stand out a bit more. To make the hubs stand out a bit, I chose red stain for all the caps. All 24 of them, and one in yellow, which is supposed to be the sun. For the moon phase ball, I went with an acrylic ball, airbrushed in a light and darker grey half from the inside. I used some leftover foam to mount it to the arbor. It's final assembly time! Let's start with the drivetrain. Next, the day of week and moon phase indicator. Then go over to the day, month, equinox and planet assembly. Notice the cam wheel assembly in the back that makes sure each month turns over correctly. Only leap years need manual attention. And last but not least, the drive lever assembly. But wait! One thing was still missing and bothering me. The weight. The blueprints call for some 8 pounds, about 4 kilograms, and my tests showed that it works with just 2 kilograms. So I decided to compromise and use about 2.5 kilograms. I managed to find a place that would send out an order of lead bars. Boy, did I feel sorry for that delivery guy. Since I can't very well tie the lead to the string, I had to come up with a nice looking containment. I went with some copper pipes and end caps arranged in a staggered 3-element design. To secure them to the string, I used some steel wire that I looped through them before melting the lead into the pipes. After polishing the copper, I was finally ready to mount that monster. And here we go! I hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to like, share, comment and subscribe.